raising 2 million fish in floating cages, feeding a $1 billion global industry that operates in complete secrecy. But these aren't ordinary fish farms floating mysteriously in the middle of endless ocean waters. What you're about to discover will completely shock you and challenge everything you think you know about food production. But first, why are these massive cages constantly moving and drifting? What actually happens when violent storms hit with devastating 40-foot waves? And how do they successfully prevent 2 million fish from escaping into the wild ocean? The answers will absolutely blow your mind and change your perspective forever. Picture 40 massive steel cages floating strategically across miles and miles of open ocean territory. Each individual cage measures exactly 200 feet long, 100 feet wide, dropping a staggering 60 feet deep into dark, mysterious water. From high above, they appear like giant swimming pools, but beneath the surface lies an incredible underwater city. 50,000 fish occupy each individual cage. Multiply that by 40 separate cages. 2 million fish living in constant motion, rising and falling rhythmically with powerful ocean tides and currents. But here's what's absolutely incredible. These enormous structures aren't anchored or attached to the ocean floor whatsoever. They drift freely with natural currents like massive sea creatures, yet somehow maintain perfect military-like formation across vast distances. Wait until you see what's actually inside these mysterious cages. The advanced technology is completely mind-blowing, but first, consider this. How do they successfully feed 2 million hungry fish in the middle of absolute nowhere? And what actually happens when fish inevitably die? Where do all the bodies disappear to? Every single cage contains multiple underwater cameras continuously watching fish behavior 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. Advanced sensors automatically measure water temperature, oxygen levels, and current strength every few minutes without human intervention. Sophisticated computer systems accurately predict optimal feeding times and growth rates in real time. The feeding operation alone is absolutely staggering. 50 tons of specialized food daily, delivered by GPS-guided vessels operating with military precision across dangerous waters. But that's definitely not the craziest part of this operation. Underwater robots continuously patrol cage perimeters like mechanical guards. These advanced drones dive 100 feet deep, systematically inspecting nets, checking structural damage, and monitoring fish health in conditions far too dangerous for human divers to survive. The entire massive operation connects via satellite communications to onshore control centers where specialized technicians track millions of individual fish simultaneously, using advanced monitoring systems. But here's what nobody publicly talks about. What do these robots actually do when they discover dead fish? How do you effectively remove corpses from underwater cages? And why don't the living fish panic when violent storms create absolute chaos above them? Initial setup investment requires $2 to $5 million minimum. Each individual cage costs exactly $200,000. Add boats, monitoring systems, specialized staff. Costs escalate incredibly fast into multiple millions. But annual revenue numbers? $10 to $15 million per individual operation. Premium fish sell for $8 to $12 wholesale prices. High-end restaurants pay $20 to $30 per pound consistently. Norway alone generates $8 billion annually from floating farms. The global market hits $280 billion yearly, growing 15% each consecutive year. Here's what's absolutely insane. Restaurants willingly pay 10 times more for these fish than regular farmed fish. But why exactly? What makes floating fish so incredibly valuable compared to alternatives? And here's the weird part that makes no sense. Insurance companies actually prefer insuring floating farms over traditional land farms. What do they know that seems completely impossible? How is floating in dangerous oceans safer than farming on solid ground? The profit margins consistently reach 30 to 40%, higher than most traditional industries. Investment firms pour billions into expansion because they see something most people completely miss. Fish in floating cages exercise continuously, 24/7, due to constant ocean currents. They're essentially ocean athletes, developing superior muscle tone and taste that land farms cannot possibly replicate under any circumstances. These fish are significantly healthier than wild-caught fish. The controlled environment eliminates dangerous ocean pollutants while maintaining all natural seawater benefits. They require fewer antibiotics, have superior nutrition profiles. But wait, this gets considerably stranger. These massive operations use absolutely zero fresh water, while traditional agriculture consumes 70% of global freshwater supply. Unnecessarily. Here's the part that completely defies logic. Instead of harming delicate ocean ecosystems, these farms actually improve them substantially. But how is that even possible? How does industrial fish farming make the ocean healthier? And why are environmental groups actively supporting an industry that keeps millions of fish confined in cages? What aren't they telling us about what happens underwater? Chile produces 800,000 tons annually. Scotland, Canada, other coastal nations built entire economies around this industry. By 2030, experts predict this market will exceed $500 billion globally. The impossible truth: fish waste becomes natural fertilizer feeding marine ecosystems continuously. These farms create artificial reefs, attracting wild marine life, increasing biodiversity instead of destroying it permanently. The numbers are absolutely staggering. 90% less land use, 80% less freshwater consumption, zero pollution discharge into surrounding waters. These farms are ocean healing stations that produce premium food. Simultaneously, major food scientists consider floating aquaculture the only scalable solution for feeding 10 billion people by 2050. Successfully, fish develop better texture because constant movement prevents fat accumulation. Ocean currents provide natural filtration. Temperature variations create optimal growing conditions impossible to replicate artificially. But here's the ultimate question. If this technology is so perfect, why isn't everyone doing it? What's the catch they're not talking about? And what happens when these floating empires expand across every available coastline? Investment firms are pouring billions into expansion because they see something most people miss completely. The future of feeding humanity is floating on water, but the real implications are bigger than anyone realizes. 2 million fish in floating cages. Just the beginning of an ocean revolution that's already transforming global food production. These floating empires are quietly preparing for something bigger than food production alone. The technology, the profits, the environmental benefits, everything points to a future most people can't imagine. But some questions remain unanswered, and those answers might change everything you think you know about the ocean itself. The floating empire has already begun. The question is, are you ready for what comes next?